Don't believe people that say the market's going to crash. You're better off to get into the market as soon as possible, hold the property and enjoy the ride.
What, in your view, is considered a low volume versus high volume buyer's agent?
Some buyer's agents just specialize in one little location. There are other buyer's agents that are purely investor focused. There's quite a plethora of different buyer's agent models out there. We're not a high volume business in that sense, but we've got wide coverage, but very localized expertise. And I think that's one of the most critical factors, that when you're choosing a buyer's agent to work with, you want to make sure they know their local area and have relationships in that local area. For me, the relationship piece is the most important part for getting a great outcome for the client.
What do you look out for to look for places?
If you're going to do it on your own, start with a clear brief. What do I want? And future-proof your needs. The market stops for nobody. The market will not crash. In the next couple of years, we are going to be heading into another boom, okay? And I'll tell you why.
Welcome to another episode of the Investing for Doctors podcast. I'm your host, Dr. B. Today we have with me Mr. Rich Harvey. Welcome, Rich. Rich is the CEO and founder of Property Buyer, the most awarded buyer's agent in Australia, with over 48 awards, and I believe a few in the progress. So,
absolutely. Trying to get a few more, mate.
Yeah, hoping to crack 50.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So they have a national coverage and have purchased over 4,500 properties for their clients. So Rich, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, B.
All right. So today we're going to be focusing on residential properties. And I know you do a bit of residential, you do a bit of commercial as well. But we want to really focus on sort of the owner-occupied residential properties. So before we start, Rich, tell me a bit about yourself and how you've come to be who you are today.
Great question. Well, thank you so much for having me, and really love to share some knowledge today. So I started my business called Property Buyer around 23 and a half years ago. So I was working in government as a senior economist. I was crunching numbers, trying to understand and trying to actually help the government make better economic decisions around the environment, did cost benefit analysis and did it in my sleep. I was always really good with numbers, and I kind of got a bit bored with it, to be frank. And I got to a point where I went, you know what, I really want to create a nest egg for my family, and I went to lots and lots of financial planners to get advice around property. But none of them could give me independent advice. It was always tied to a commission. They were always trying to secretly sell me something on the side. And I thought there's got to be a better way. So I used to read a book a week. I used to listen to podcasts and go to seminars and webinars and educate myself. So I really did that and started buying properties while I was working government. Ended up earning more money from investing in property than I was in my day job. And I thought, wow, here's an opportunity. No one was really teaching anyone or showing anyone how to actually make good buying decisions. So that was sort of the genesis of my company, Property Buyer. And if you had to distill it down into like a 10-second grab, it's really to help people make better property decisions. That's my mantra. That's my ethos, basically. So yeah, I did 2 degrees in economics, and that's been really helpful for me in educating clients, where I can understand the market, what's happening at a macro perspective, and then drill that down to what's happening on the ground in the property market to help a client make a good decision.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of overlap from an economics degree and learning a bit more about how the macroeconomic, how different states work.
Yeah.
Is that something you found that was really helpful, from your training?
Yeah, I think like at university, it wasn't so much the subject matter, but it was learning how to learn, learning how to research.
Absolutely.
I mean, I imagine you as a doctor, you're learning how the body works and how to do certain operations, and it's amazing. What your field is incredible, and full respect to you. And the amount of study you guys have to do is amazing. But for me, I just love the learning process. So for me, if you dropped me in a helicopter in any property market in Australia, within 2 to 3 days, I could know that market pretty much backward. Like knowing how to get the information I need to make a good decision. That's what I can bring to the table for our clients.
Yeah, so it's that special formula that you have based on decades of experience.
Exactly.
So how many years of investing in your own property assets were you doing before you started Property Buyer?
As I said, I bought 3 properties before I started my own investment journey. So I started my business, and I realized it was funny because I remember one day, the HR lady was looking at my group certificate, which every year you get your group certificate, shows how much tax you paid. And the old 221D tax variation, now it's called Section 1515 tax withholding variation. I'd got my tax bill down to about 0. And she said, how do you pay no tax? And I said, let me show you. I invest in property and I claim depreciation and I claim all expenses. That's really, show me how you do that. So bingo, there was a light bulb moment for how do I educate people on how to invest in property and get ahead.
Yeah. And looking back 20 something years ago, we didn't have the technologies we have
No.
right now to share that information.
That's right.
So initially at the start, how did
It was really hard,
work?
mate. When I first started, I mean, even realestate.com was only just in its infancy. You had to go and get the local papers, and you had to form relationships with local agents.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the keys to my success today is we have a database of agents across the country, and it's each of my buyer's agents lives and works locally, and having that relationship is really critical. But in the early days, even mobile phones, when did they come in? Early 90s, I think it was.
Absolutely.
We had the mobile phone, which was great, right?
But there were bricks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the early days of internet searching was really tricky. So you had to be going to all the open homes, get the information, collate it, and it was a much more mechanical process. It was a lot harder.
Yeah, I can imagine before the realestate.com listings and all of that sort of stuff, you would perhaps look at the classified.
You were looking at the classifieds. You were getting all the papers locally. Yeah.
And how? I mean, you're based in Sydney.
Yes.
So how long was it before you went national?
Probably about. No, how long is it now? Probably 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So we opened up Brisbane and Newcastle, Gold Coast.
Yeah.
But now I've got teams in all the states.
Yeah. So I'm just going to take a joke from our industry because we're sometimes still using faxes.
Yes.
At the start, were you using faxes to send stuff around? Or?
Yeah. Back in the day I was.
Back in the days,
I was actually looking at our website thinking, why have we got the fax on there? We just got rid of it. We don't need it anymore. It's like so archaic.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, over 20 years of journey, that's incredible, and you've probably seen the evolution of all the technology and the various business models. So tell me about the what you said previously, this link to commission kind of model. What was that like, and is that still here today?
Oh, absolutely. There's still plenty of property spruikers out there today that are selling property, and there'll be a $30,000, $40,000, even a $50,000 commission embedded in the price that the purchaser won't know about, that goes to the person spruiking that property. So that still happens to this day. And I just think all commissions should be absolutely transparent and declared. We don't get any commissions from agents or developers. With everything if we get anything, it's fully declared, but we don't get anything like that. We're 100% independent. So that whole model of selling off the plan and house and land packages, honestly, it's not a great way to go. And the thing is, a lot of those properties that you're talking about there, they're in what we call greenfield areas, not established areas. So the supply and demand metrics are often not as good for the purchaser. Give you an example. A lot of people bought off the plan properties in Docklands in Melbourne back in the day, or they bought in inner Brisbane. So those inner Brisbane buyers, they basically would have spent maybe $500,000 or $600,000 for a 1 or 2 bedroom unit. The price has flatlined, if not declined, for about 10 years. It's only in the last couple of years since COVID that they've actually made money on that investment. So the problem is you won't know how well you've done until 3 to 5 or 10 years down the track in your investment decisions. But buying in those areas that can be, got high density, they can be easily replicated, a much larger supply can come in. That's not where you want to buy.
That's a uniqueness about the property.
Exactly. You want to buy in areas where there's limited supply, limited, rezoning opportunities, and it's going to be really contained.
Yeah, excellent. We'll touch on that a little bit later, but I guess one of the very first property purchases or investment, you may call it, is your own owner-occupied, because the majority of people will buy their first home to live in, and rather than doing rent vesting. That's even though rent vesting is an entirely feasible option. How has that evolved over the years? Because these days people tend to be a lot more mobile, and your first home is not going to be your forever home.
That's it. I think it's a great question, B. I think at the end of the day, you've got to also look at your own home as a stepping stone to get on the property ladder. Interesting fact, I just helped my son buy his first property yesterday. He's just exchanging today on his first property. So it's a great journey, right? And again, they've been listening to me talk around the dinner table. I say, as soon as you've got some money, let's get you into the market. So he's finally done that. And I'm really proud of him. But I think for anyone listening to this podcast, it's really important to get your foot on the property ladder because you're building this magical thing called equity. It's like the golden goose that lays the golden egg. Every year, you're building equity. And the more equity you build, the more you can then multiply your wealth. And that was like a light bulb moment for me when I understood how the property market works, how to build wealth just through even buying your own home and leveraging that wealth. And we should talk more about leverage because that's a really important concept, particularly for doctors who are time poor, and just let the power of capital multiply itself through property, safe property investing. So when you're buying your own home, there's a mixture of criteria. It's going to be about lifestyle. It's about being close to family and friends. It's about being close to transport networks, all your recreational activities that you're doing. You want to buy in an area that's going to suit your lifestyle at the end of the day. On the flip side of that, it is also an investment. So you don't want to buy in an area where prices are going to be completely flatlined for the next 10 years. Because when you sell your home, there's this great thing called capital gains tax that doesn't apply to your own home. So you can actually, I call it the principal place of residence strategy. You can buy a home, add value, do it up, move into the next one. The only thing will be is the stamp duty and the agent's fees you've got. So you don't want to flip a property, say, every 6 months, because you probably find that all the costs, the stamp duty will just chew up your profit. But it is certainly a great way to actually get ahead and into the market. But coming back to your point about buying your first home, it is really important to have what I call realistic expectations. Some people come to me and go, Rich, I want to buy my first home, but I want it to be 3 bedrooms and I want a view of the ocean and I want this and I want that. And it's like, well, okay, that's fine. But have you got the income to support it?
Yes.
Is it going to put too much financial pressure on you? Let's look at getting something that's going to get you into the market. You can add some value to it, or it might just be fine. Just hold it and live in it, enjoy it, and use it as a step up to your next one.
Yeah. So for my case, when I think I purchased my first place when I was third year out of medicine, and we just got a 1-bedder.
Yeah.
Moved in it. It was close to work, close to the city. Great, fantastic lifestyle.
Yeah.
And what we did was, after we decided to upsize, we just kept it on as an investment.
Yeah, great.
And is that
that
something you see very often?
Absolutely, yeah, that's great. I mean, the only thing on that strategy, just got to make sure that it's a tax-effective loan. So again, you're talking to a broker. So if you've lived in it for a period of time, and let's say you've paid your loan down to 0, then it may not be as tax-effective.
Oh, I always tell people, put in an offset, don't pay it down. Unless you really need to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as long as then, you got to just do the metrics on it. As long as there's still a good tax deduction on the interest on it. But yeah, absolutely, getting an apartment, getting a townhouse, and going from there. I mean, a lot of our friends, they started to buy apartments, then moved into a townhouse, then moved into a house. So again, it just depends on your income capacity at the time. My wife and I, we were good little savers, and we managed to buy our first house in Pennant Hills, and we bought a big block. Very fortunate, we got it off market through one of our contacts, over 1,000 square meters, and we were able to subdivide it. And that was brilliant for us, because it meant we almost basically got a free block of land at the back of the house, and we're able to build on that. Sold the front one off, helped to pay down the loan, moved into the back, lived in that for 5 years when we had our first 2 kids, and then we moved to the beaches after that.
Very nice.
But it was a challenge though, getting it through Hornsby Council. My goodness, what a nightmare that was. It was at a time where dual occupancy was a thing, right?
Yes.
You could have dual occupancy on certain size blocks. But Hornsby Council were just very anti-dual lock, right?
Yeah.
And so our DA, they put a moratorium saying no more dual locks, but they hadn't done it correctly. They hadn't done it through the Department of Planning the right way.
Yeah.
So we were able to get our DA through, but it took 526 days to get our DA approved. It was the longest ever DA to be approved. It was just ridiculous. So we celebrated when we got it, and persistence paid. But that was really the catalyst for us starting our whole property journey.
Yeah.
So that one property decision for us then catapulted us into buying multiple properties down the track.
Oh, awesome. So one of the things that you're very good at, from what I hear, is that buying premium properties. And a lot of doctors, when after they're consulting, they become consultants, they've started private practice, they're looking at the premium sort of stuff. Yeah. Tell me, how would you, as a buyer's agent, assist that? Because a lot of people go to these auctions, they feel like they've been priced out. What is the processes there for?
Yeah, so we actually do look after a lot of medical doctors and other staff associated with hospitals. And I recently just bought one this year for a client in Kirkle, and I'll come back to that. But the process we do is really firstly sit down with our client and say, what is it you're looking for? Tell us the suburbs. If they're not sure about the suburbs, we can advise them. And we really get an idea of their preferences and their needs and what's going to be good for them for the next 10, 15 years, or future-proof, basically. So we create what's called a buyer's brief. So we get all their criteria. That might be they're looking for 4 bedrooms, property with a pool and a view and a wine cellar and a 3-car garage, whatever it is, media room. I mean, I've seen some beautiful properties in my time, absolutely stunning.
What's the craziest
properties.
request you had?
Where do I start?
Top three.
Okay. Where do I start? I mean, I just remember some guy wanted a 5-car garage. He was really into eclectic cars.
Only 5.
He really wanted that. I know. So another guy wanted a house with a heliport, So a lot of people want really stunning views. I think the views and the privacy is another big one.
Yes.
A lot of the really sort of upmarket properties have terrible privacy. Because like in the eastern suburbs particularly, they're all looking over each other. So again, you've got to find a property that's got the right, not just the right look and the feel and the construction, but also got not overlooking the neighbours as well, But with the process, we'll get an understanding of the client's brief, their budget, and then we give them an example of properties that have recently transacted in the last couple of years. So there's like a benchmark report on properties that have transacted. Then we start searching for those properties. And the way we do that is we have access to a lot of off-market, particularly in the premium end. Majority are going to be sold off-market. So you'll never see them advertised. And the only way to get them is through direct to vendor or direct through relationships with agents. And
so the local guys on the ground.
Exactly, the local agents, And it takes a lot of time. Most people on their own will take anywhere from 12 to 24 months to buy their own home if they're doing it on their own. But with someone like myself as a buyer's agent, we speed up that whole process. We find the properties a lot faster and it will probably take between 1 to 3 months on average. So it's a lot faster. We get access to those off-market opportunities. Then what we do when we've found a suitable property, get the client to come and have a look. If they say, yes, we like it, then we do an appraisal, a detailed appraisal of that property. And we look at comparable sales. We look at we've got about 9 different factors we look at: the construction, the aspect, the slope, the layout, the floor plan. All of those factors determine the value of the property. We give them a report on that. So they've got evidence on what our justification is on the number. And then we go into bat and then we go into negotiation phase. I love negotiating. It's fun. It's great fun. It's a sport for me. I love winning at negotiating. And I've really trained my team and myself in how to be a top negotiator. There's some great skills that my team has. So we negotiate the lowest possible price. So it's not about penny pinching and getting bargains all the time, but it's about beating others who also, because there'll be competition, even in off-market properties, there will still be competition from other buyers in that space. Then it's about completing due diligence. So it's getting pest and building reports done, contract reviewed by a solicitor, and any other kind of due diligence, like checking if there's any neighbouring DAs or any overlays on the property or easements or covenants on the property. Then it's through to exchange. Happy days, pop the champagne cork and we exchange. And then the last step in our process is a pre-settlement inspection and handover. So that's the process. But I guess some examples. I had a lovely client that had literally fallen in love with a property in Mossman. They'd been through it once and they rang me and they said, Rich, if we walk through this property again, we will pay top price. We just really, really want it. And the
price wasn't a problem.
Price wasn't a problem for them, but they knew their emotions was going to cloud their judgment.
Yes.
So we had lunch together. I said, look, that's fine. Just engage me. We can offer a service called appraise and negotiate only. Yeah. So we've got 3 levels of service. One is we do everything. So we find the property, we appraise it, we negotiate it. Yeah. Second level of service is just do an appraise and negotiate. The client brings us the property, we negotiate it. And the third level is we just do auction bidding. We do the bidding on behalf of the client.
Okay, so there's different discrete parts of it. So if someone found a place and they know they're terrible at auction games,
exactly,
they can just get one of the guys to go in.
And there's different pricing for that.
Okay,
Right, so it's roughly around 2% to do the full search, 1% to appraise and negotiate, and just a flat fee to do auction bidding only. $2,000.
Okay.
But back to the story. So this client really loved the property. What I did, it's a bit sneaky here. I did one little secret. So they said, we can't go through the property. We can't let the agent know that it's us. So I thought, what will I do? Okay, I'll bring one of my mates who's going to pose as the buyer. Okay. So I took one of my good friends, got him to dress up looking nice and pretended he got lots of money. They were advertising it for $10 million, right? This was about 9 years ago.
Yeah.
So we went through this property, direct view of the heads, had a beautiful lap pool, 3 levels, 4-car garage, gym, sauna, media rooms, just everything was immaculate about the property. But the view was stunning, just like right out, looking over Balmoral Heads, just unbelievable. So they only wanted 10 million, right? Wasn't going to take anything less. And I went through. It was a time in the market when it was a bit soft, which was really good. So I took my client through and said, look, I think it's really going to suit him. Rang the agent, said, I think we're putting in an offer. And have a guess what I offered. $7.8 million. I don't care. I'm really cheeky, right? Sometimes. And the agent, Rich, you got to be kidding me. Don't insult me. And this is the thing. I don't care. For me, I just go into bat. So I made the offer. I said, look, that's fine. They're not in a hurry. We're looking at other properties because you've always got to have plan B.
Yeah.
You always got to plan C when you're negotiating because you can't be emotionally invested in one property. So I let it lie its life for a week. Nothing. I didn't ring the agent. Agent rang. So, Rich, are you still interested? Yeah. Look, they're still debating it. We can probably increase their offer a little bit. Look, we'll give you $8 million for it. Anyway, he said, no, it's no way. It's nowhere near good enough, I said, oh, it's fine. Well, look, we'll just buy something else, Meanwhile, the clients are sweating in the back. Rich, have you got it yet? Have you got it? When are we going to get this property? They're just on me all the whole time. I said, look, don't worry. There's no one else on it at the moment. It's okay. Anyway, the owner was going away overseas for a period of time. It's like 4 weeks transpired. You imagine how desperate the clients were by this stage. Owner comes back, wants to sell the property. And then we had that, what I call pointy end of negotiations.
Yeah.
Ended up buying it for $8.15 million. So saved them almost, $1.85 million.
Yeah.
So a huge saving. They were just over the moon. That property today is worth around $18 million. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So great story there. Yeah. I helped another client buy property, and another doctor from interstate buy a beautiful property in Townsville. In Kirkhill. Sorry, he's from Townsville, but buying in Kirkhill. Anyway, he was wanting to buy his retirement forever home when he comes back. Brief was, Rich, we want a northeast aspect, want to get the towel, be able to walk to the beach, go to the cafe, and just really have a low maintenance lifestyle. So budget was around $4 million. So I sent out an email to my entire database of agents in the local area, had a look at some properties that were online, found about 4 or 5 properties that might have suited. And then a week after it started, then I got another email from an agent that said, Rich, we're actually thinking of selling our own home. So it's the agent's own home.
The agent's own home.
His own home selling. So it's a bit unusual. And I thought, okay, this will be interesting. Went to have a look. It was perfect. It was just perfect. 3-bedroom townhouse, 200 metres from the beach. Just ideal, So I went through and rang the clients. I said, they flew down to Sydney. I showed them 4 other properties and then kept the best one till last. And of course, they loved it, as I expected. And cut a long story short, it was worth around 4.2. I got it for $4 million for them. So closed it in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So they were super happy.
Yeah, those are amazing stories. And I guess when you're using someone like yourself, you want to be, the most value you can get is at the sort of the higher end and the mid end, whereas sort of at the lower end.
Well, even in terms of, you're talking about bargaining, you're talking about bargaining?
But also sort of the value. So if you just wanted a 2-bedroom apartment in somewhere, right? That could be...
Absolutely, we can do that as well.
Yeah,
we don't just service the upper end. We service right down from first home buyers.
Yeah, okay.
So we can help anybody buy any property. So we don't... There are some buyers agents that just do the top end.
Yeah.
We love doing the top end.
But the top end sounds amazing.
It's rubbish fun.
Great. It's fun, but
sometimes you're dealing with really difficult vendors.
Yeah.
But we help clients that are buying their first home, third home, upgraders, downsizers, everything. So we have very wide budgets, So we're bought from 500,000 to 50 million.
Absolutely. So on the lower end, what does that look like? Is it more in terms of making sure they don't overpay for a property, or because there's lots of stock?
I think it's buying the wrong property too. Yeah. Because let's say, I'll give you an example. My son's buying in DY, right?
Yes.
There's lots and lots of units in DY. Example, high density. What's another example? Say Bondi Junction. There's lots of properties or apartments, for example. So you've got to be very careful what you buy. So make sure the building doesn't have any special levies or concrete cancer. Make sure there's no water penetration issues. So how do you do that? You must get a strata search done.
Yeah.
So strata searches will tell you if there's any proposed special levies, any history of problems in the building. Like I remember years ago, I was looking at a lot of apartments in Harris Street around Ultimo. And back in the day, what's his name? Harry Triggerboff, the American, they had a few problems. Like they build quality now, but back in the day, there was a lot of issues with water penetration.
Yeah.
So all those buildings had major defects,
Yeah.
And there's still, you've seen Mascot Towers and Opal Towers, and there's still some dodgy builders out there. So you've got to be really careful that you buy a quality apartment that's well built. And a lot of their properties built in the late 50s, 60s and 70s were quite good quality, really solid, really well built properties. You don't tend to have issues with those kind of buildings. So, so you don't want to buy the wrong property that's got the wrong aspect or in a really busy corner and got building problems.
So if I wanted to get something like an apartment, for instance, right, and there's just so much stock available, like what are the sort of factors that say a first homeowner would be looking at? I mean, it's probably...
So I think about, you mentioned a good word, uniqueness. I think that's important to look at. So you want good natural light.
Yeah.
You think about who will buy the property after you. So properties that stay on the market a long time, there's usually a problem. Properties that sell quickly, they sell quickly for a good reason because they're in high demand. So what am I looking for? Good natural light, good layout for an apartment, good storage. I prefer a lock-up garage to a car space. It's more secure.
Is that common?
Yeah, it is. Like a lot of properties just have car spaces rather than lock-up garages. But we all have stuff. We've got Christmas trees. We've got extra stuff, and we need to store it, right? So having that garage where you can build a mezzanine level above the front hood of the car and put your stuff, it's great, you know? What else? Internal laundry is really important. A lot of the older apartments have shared laundry, which is not the end of the world, but if you can renovate the kitchen and put a little New York laundry or a little, washer dryer in the kitchen area as well, that's gold, rather than having to traipse downstairs and drape upstairs, because you put the washing on, you forget about it, So
absolutely.
You want to have that all self-contained. And like I say, good layout. I think the open plan, rather than like boxy kitchen tucked away, you want to have an apartment that's got good layout and open, and even study nooks. Like I love properties or apartments that are a bit larger where you can have a study desk, because a lot of us are work from home, 1, 2, 3 days a week now, and to have that little extra study nook is really important as well.
The some of the feedback that I get is that places that used to be big enough for two income earning partners with no kids.
That's it.
Yeah, they're a dual income, no kid family.
Yeah.
They're not big enough anymore because there are a lot of working from home and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I mean, during COVID, our business exploded. Like at first, I mean, everyone when COVID hit thought, oh, the world's going to end, and we had no revenue for 3 months. It was quite tricky. But then suddenly everybody realized, I need to work from home. The kids are driving me crazy. I need more space, and demand for our services went through the roof. So I doubled my team during COVID. It was quite remarkable. Okay. Oh yeah, absolutely. So, and we did so many off-market transactions that year. It was unbelievable, So it was quite a great year for us in business, and quite transformational in the way we did things as well. We really improved our systems and processes and how we looked after clients. But to the point of the home buyers wanting better digs, that was really what it was. We all wanted to upgrade our homes. We couldn't spend money on travel. What did we do? We improved our home lives.
Absolutely. That, and then afterwards, all the revenge spending, and nobody had money, and the interest rate went up, and no one has serviceability anymore.
Exactly.
So before we sort of end the session, so if you were giving tips for any sort of buyer, right? What do you look out for if they were just going onto the market to look for places, versus using your service? Like,
I think it's just that if you're going to do it on your own, I think start with a clear brief. Just sit down with your partner, or if it's just your own. What do I want in a property? If we're talking about for a home buyer, what do I want? What's going to and future-proof your needs. So, for example, okay, if you've just finished medical school and you're going to be earning good money, but you won't be earning really good money for another couple of years, just get an apartment. Maybe get a 2-bedder with a bit of extra space where you can live for 3-4 years, right?
Yeah.
And then get onto that property ladder. So write down all your needs, then your wants on that property. So is it a lock-up garage? Is it internal laundry? Close to shops, schools, transport, all those key things. Write down your list. Most people don't write it down. It's like, I remember someone saying only 3% of people write goals. I just rewrote my goals the other day.
Yeah.
And you've got to write down exactly what you want. And there's your target. Write down your target suburbs. Then you've got to go out and start doing inspections. So not just jump on realestate.com, but go out there and actually physically wear out your shoe leather and look at properties every single week. It's tiring, and that's why people use this, because they get fed up.
Yeah.
But go out there every week. Start then tracking auction results, tracking private treaty sales. So in New South Wales, you can't have offers over. New South Wales pricing, you have to put price is X, 400, 500,000, whatever it is. Right? But track what the asking price is and what it actually sells for.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of agents underquote.
Yes,
if they put $1 million, they want 1.1 or 1.2, right? So there's a lot of fun and games still goes on in the real estate game around pricing. So get out there, attend auctions. I think auctions are very scary for a lot of people, and auctioneers are masters at squeezing every last dollar out of the buyer pool. They're very, very smart at doing that. That's a whole other topic. But get out there, look at how auctioneers operate, look at how agents operate, and get used to the market. And as you start looking at lots and lots of properties, you start to see a pattern. Oh, that property down there that was quoted $1 million actually sold for 1.3. Why is that? Well, high demand. That property that was advertised for 1.3 sold for 1.2. Oh, why is that? Something's wrong with it, right? So you start to get a feel for what true value is. And the other thing is keep watching the broader economic sentiment. Right at the moment, we've had very, very poor consumer sentiment. It's been around 80 basis points. It's now ticked up to around 90. So we are, as consumers, feeling a little bit more happy. Not quite there.
Why is that?
Because we're expecting rate cuts.
Yeah.
That's why.
Okay.
We're expecting rate cuts. We've had high interest rates and we just think things are going to get better. You know, even though there's wars overseas, there's this perception. And this is the thing in property. Property sentiment is very, very important. It has an influence on decision making. And it's really important that you as a buyer, you remove emotion from this process. And a lot of people can't do that. They can't separate buying their home and their emotion from the end result. And that's where we can add that extra layer of protection for the buyer. So I guess the tips are write down your needs, get out there and inspect properties, track the results. And when it comes to executing, a lot of people don't know how to pull the trigger. They're afraid of making offers. You've got to know how to make offers and how to complete the due diligence, getting the contract reviewed, getting the pest and buildings done, getting the strata reports done before finalising your offer. And I've seen a lot of people fall over at that point because they're not sure what they need to do.
Yeah, right. You would think that the agent that's selling them would recommend someone to assist them in that.
Exactly.
Right?
But then there are good solicitors and average solicitors.
Yeah.
You know, some solicitors don't even pick certain things up. You know, even with the pest and building report that's often supplied by the vendor, I don't always trust it. Right.
Well, I mean, that's a piece that the sellers pay for. So
exactly. It's not completely independent.
Yeah.
Depending on who's done it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain Australian standards around pest and building reports, but it depends on the actual inspector themselves.
Yeah.
So for $550, you can get your own inspection report done and just to verify that it's going to be okay.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that a lot of people talk about is they've gone through all the efforts of doing due diligence and then the deals falls over.
Yes.
Is that common in...
It depends why it falls over. And I think if you're going to spend, it might be that you have 3 pest and building reports till you end up buying the right one. That's just the cost of doing business at the end of the day. I'd rather spend $1,500 getting those reports than ending up with a $20,000 repair bill for some termite damage I didn't know about.
Yeah, but you're speaking like an economist. A lot of people have that fear of loss aversion, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And, they do it once and it's like, went to auction, we didn't get it. And they do it again, and then they give up.
Yeah. Well, what we actually see there, B, is I've seen we nickname some of those people wounded bulls, or ones that keep going, or the frustrated buyer. So someone has been to auction, missed out, someone keeps coming in over the top, and then they turn up at the next auction and go, you know what, we're just going to buy this. I'm so sick of looking. Let's just pay anything and we'll get this property and be done with the whole house search. And then they end up paying way over what it's worth just because they're fed up with the process.
Yeah.
The agent and the vendor are happy because they got a great price, but at the end of the day, they've overpaid.
So as the seller side, I mean, because a lot of these guys, right? Is there some sort of strategy that they're using?
Absolutely.
When I go to open house, how they ask you some questions.
Absolutely.
And then they keep a profile of you. Is
Absolutely.
that how that happens?
You have no idea how they're profiling me. They're doing a whole AI thing. I'm joking. No, but they actually are profiling you.
Yeah.
They'll be okay, is B a genuine buyer? Okay. Do we know, has he told me his budget? Has he made offers on other properties? They take notes on this stuff, right? Have you asked to request a contract? So they're profiling you. Has he made an offer on a property that they've been auctioning? So they keep all those notes on those buyers, absolutely, because they want to know. They want to create competition. Their whole goal is to create competition to push the price as high as possible. That's their number one strategy. So the selling agent is working for the vendor. For me, as the buyer's agent, I'm working for the buyer. So we understand the buyer strategy, the seller strategy, and the vendor strategy. We understand what they're trying to do.
Yeah. So it's like if we went ourselves, it's like taking a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
You're our gun.
Exactly.
In a way.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So now, before we finish, if I wanted to engage a buyer's agent, what are the sort of the prerequisites that I need? Should I be getting my finances sorted to know how much I can service, or how does that process start?
Well, I mean, we just have a conversation to start with. I think it's really good. We can recommend a good mortgage broker to talk to. It's really important to know what your financial capacity is, what your borrowing capacity is, having the deposit ready. That's really important. You don't have to have the brief completely sorted. We can help create that brief and help create what it is that the client's looking to buy. But you want to use a buyer's agent that, number one, is licensed, has considerable experience, is a member of the Real Estate Buyers Agent Association. I was the president for 4 years in that group, and has the right, ethos around how they deliver the service. Because there's a lot of brand new buyers agents with like 1 or 2 years experience out there. My team have all got minimum 10 years experience.
Yeah.
Myself, 25 years experience. So it's like if I'm using a doctor,
Yeah.
who would I use? I want to use the surgeon that's done the operation 150 times.
Yeah.
Not 3. At the
Yeah,
end of the
absolutely.
day. So you want to choose someone that's got the right credentials. But I think in coming to me, it doesn't have to be all a lay down misere. Just start the conversation, and we can help the client go through the process of getting the finance approved and starting the brief.
Yeah, awesome. And maybe a little bit controversial topic. What, in your view, is considered a low volume versus high volume buyer's agent?
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Look, some buyer's agents just specialize in one little location.
Yeah.
There are other buyer's agents that are purely investor focused. There's quite a plethora of different buyer's agent models out there. So for us, we're not a high volume business in that sense, but we've got wide coverage, but very localized expertise. And I think that's one of the most critical factors, that when you're choosing a buyer's agent to work with, you want to make sure they know their local area and have relationships in that local area. For me, the relationship piece is the most important part for getting a great outcome for the client. So, for example, if I live on the Northern Beaches, if you wanted to buy something on Northern Beaches, I'll have your property sewn up in about 6 weeks. If you came as a client, for example.
Yeah.
So Matt does the North Shore, same thing. He's been with me 16 years. Munro in the East, knows all the agents. So having that relationship and the strength of the relationship to uncover the right stock is absolutely critical. And you don't want to have a buyer's agent that's got 10 clients. For my team, we can probably take on no more than, say, 5 clients each at a time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just overload.
So Rich, I remember you telling me that you also do a bit of other work outside of being a buyer's agent. Like you help people look at developments and sort of a bit more than just a typical buy and invest or buy and live in. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Sure. So we've got our residential home buying division. We also help people buy commercial properties. We also help people with property management. We have a property management division. And then we also have a development division. So we can help clients find development sites and basically build a portfolio of properties through developing them as well. So we can provide consulting advice on that to work out the highest and best use of a site. So if a person comes to us and says, look, I've got a property, I think it could be developed, it's in the right zoning area, what do I do? We'd love to have a conversation. And we can do a what's called a feasibility on that site and outline to that client what the potential opportunities are for that site.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be another whole topic in its own right. And
so we've got some pretty smart software and pretty great, really cool data around that. The other thing I do is I love doing joint ventures with people. So someone might have a block of land or want to do a development, but simply hasn't got the time. They've got some money, they've got the financial capacity, but they just don't have the energy or the wherewithal to go and find a site, develop it, and make a profit.
Yeah.
So we come in, we can even help find the site. We can help find a capital partner if they've got to have some equity to put in, right? Initial equity, that's really critical. And we can do something together as a joint venture. So that's another good opportunity. Or if someone just wants to be a passive investor and just contribute equity into a deal, we'd love to work with that sort of person as well. So really probably minimum around 400K plus is what the minimum equity would be to do a development site, and love to talk to those kind of people and do something with them. And that's a great way. You can either, if you do that, build wealth through just getting a return, like a cash on cash return, or even better if you're a doctor and you're probably earning good money, is to actually get property as profit. So instead of, for example, you put 400K in, instead of taking 800K out in total, 400K profit, you actually end up with a property at the end of that process.
Oh, okay.
That's another way it can be done.
I think that's another conversation.
I'm just uncovering all of the conversations for you.
Yeah. You're just giving me a whole list of future episodes to work on.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Before we wrap up, any sort of final words for the viewers out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say, we're recording this obviously toward the end of 2024.
Yes.
There's always that thief of time, and it's called procrastination. Procrastination is the thief of time. And if you want to get on the property ladder, I see a lot of people going, I should have bought last year. And the market stops for nobody. Everybody, I hear these predictions, the market's going to crash. I'm going to wait. The market will not crash. The next couple of years, we are going to be heading into another boom. Okay. And I'll tell you why. we've had 600,000 migrants. This year we've had 382,000 migrants come to the country, and not even at the end of the year, so it'll be over 400,000.
Yeah.
So the volume of people that need property is unbelievable. We're only building around 130 to 140,000 dwellings a year. We should be building 250 plus. So we have a thing called a structural deficit in terms of supply. And construction costs are higher. So there's this storm we call it a crisis now. What's it going to be in 3 or 4 years' time? So what I'm saying is that don't believe people that say the market's going to crash. You're better off to get into the market as soon as possible, hold the property, and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, beautiful. All right. With that, thank you again for
Pleasure.
recording this episode with us.
Thanks,
and
Pete.
we look forward to more.
Thank you so much.
This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. The information and opinions shared are not intended as personal financial advice. The content presented should not be relied upon for making financial, investment, or other decisions. Listeners are strongly encouraged to seek the advice of qualified financial or legal professionals before making any financial decisions. While we aim to provide valuable and accurate information, we make no guarantees regarding the completeness or accuracy of the content. Any reliance on the information provided is done at your own risk.